Hey guys, Rob from Georgia here with you, aka VHS82 apostrophe, with my continuing look at season 2, mid-stride, I think. This is about the midway point. Episode 8, Nebraska. Almost think it might have been better if it was retitled Aftermath, because that is exactly what this episode is. It is the aftermath of the previous episode, Pretty Much Dead Already, which the end was, the end bleeds, not to make a pun, but bleeds right on over to the opening scenes of this one, and really does deal with the aftermath of what went down in terms of what the domino effect of what Shane started. Nebraska, February 12th, 2012, and I think if I was just reading a little bit, and I think there's going to be a gap in about 3 months to when the next episode. So that's interesting. Not that I'll take a 3-month reprieve or whatever. Not reprieve, but I think I finally found my groove. I'm hoping. This episode is great, man. It was directed by Clark Johnson, written by Evan T. Reilly. Clark Johnson, he was, an actor, and quite over 100 credits to his name. In fact, he is Cherry, the character Cherry in the 7th episode of Daredevil Born Again. Also, he was Detective Watkins in Brawl in Cell Block 99, Vince Vaughn movie. Also, he was in that movie Nick of Time with Johnny Depp. Directed lots of TV episodes. Aaron Munoz and Michael Raymond-James, respectively, Tony and Dave, are guest appearances here towards the end of this episode. Aaron Munoz, who plays Tony, was Mr. Holden in Stranger Things, so you might recognize him from that. This marks the first official episode where Glenn Mazzara replaces as executive producer, replaces Darabont. This is the first episode we see Rick actually kill a living person, not one, but two, in quite a great, almost kind of like, now that I think about it, it's Greedo and Han, when Han shoots first, but in this case, they do move for their guns. He's just quicker than them. Interesting. Okay, so basically, like I said, this is, I don't think there's a whole lot to talk about here. This is the opening scenes are really rough, man. Herschel's on his knees. He's a mess, man. His daughter, Beth, goes up to her mom, and who's just been killed, along with his stepson. And of course, Sophia has been killed by Rick, and a whole slew of other walkers that were stored up in the barn, which we learn Otis apparently was would be the one who would bring the walkers back and was filling up the barn. So apparently Otis, along his way, came across Sophia and brought her back, which is, you wonder how much of this is going to carry over into the next few episodes. But Shane, in the immediate aftermath of that, of course, Beth, as she leans down toward mom, her mom has not been killed and nearly takes a bite out of her face. But as they put her down, Andrea, I think, with a pickaxe, I think, right through the head. The group, Herschel and Maggie and them, they get up and they start, stumbling back to the house. There is my dryer, if you heard it. And Shane comes up, and Shane is just not having any of it. He just wants to assume and believe. Again, he's sort of forcing himself up on some sort of makeshift moral high ground, and believes that that Herschel knew all along that while they were out there looking for Sophia, that she was in the barn. Well, he didn't. And as far as we know, according to his own testimony, going up the porch. Now, it's funny, Shane actually comes right up to him, and he's about to, I think, take a swing at him, but Maggie steps in between and slaps Shane in the face, and about the only one of the only times you see Shane really show restraint. I mean, what is he going to do? Hit Maggie right in front of Glenn? I'm not sure even what Glenn would have done. I don't know of many people there could have taken Shane down. Rick, probably. Daryl. Rick and Daryl together would take Shane down. But, and so you're sort of left in this aftermath of, you know, what happens now? Well, you know, burial. We learn continuing an earlier theme, burying those we love and burning those we don't know. And so we'll see a makeshift burial for the stepson and the wife of Herschel and Sophia, which Carol will not be part of. She just can't. I don't know, it's weird. Daryl takes it really weird. Daryl just sort of sits there in the trailer and our RV, and I think Daryl's going to have a moment of, you know, the last time we thought Daryl was actually really making a pivot turn for the better was, remember that episode back a ways where they came across that church, and there just seemed to be illusions there for Daryl to latch onto, where his character might begin to change. And here is a pause in effect of Daryl's character, not really sure where he's going to go from here. Shane, of course, and the tension between Rick and Shane is elevated to an all-time high. But Rick's not going to give him the satisfaction of perhaps knowing that he is right about a lot of things, about maybe he is right, maybe he's not. They didn't know Sophia was in the barn. I mean, Rick was, you know, Rick is the moral compass of the group and is only doing what he believes is right. Shane he's cold, man. I mean, he's only operating by the rules as he sees them, and that's how you operate yourself by. And so, you know, this is not heading towards a good place. And the only one that is going to be able to displace Shane or diffuse it is going to be Rick at some point. However many episodes lie in front of us till we get to that point. So his daughter, Herschel's daughter, ultimately is a scene inside the house where she collapses. I think Laurie and Maggie are having I think it's those two are having a conversation. Anyways, his daughter Beth collapses. I think it's Beth. Well, she falls into some sort of catatonic shock, and they need Herschel. Well, he's nowhere to be found. Now we have had the burial service, and Herschel was out there for it. Everyone is out there. And then shortly thereafter, Herschel's just disappeared. Well, Rick and Glenn, they get, by going into the bedroom and seeing the stuff that he has taken out and got rid of, and realizing that he's gone through his wife's stuff, you know, because he's still holding out hope, or was, that, you know, she could be cured and they could basically just pick up where they left off. It just ain't gonna happen. But they realize that there is a I can't think of what they're called, but, you know, the little thing you hold liquor in that you can keep inside, you know, on the side of your pants or whatever. I don't know. My mind's just not there right now. And so the connection is made that Herschel used to drink. Well, there's a tavern downtown that they're aware of, and apparently Herschel used to be down there all the time before he quit drinking and latched on to his Christianity. I don't know if we're told if his Christianity came in after the fact, or was sort of the beginnings of it, or be previous or whatever, but he is, they do find him. They go after him and they find him down the tavern. Man, he's drinking it up a storm. But I mean, you know, you can't, I say you can't blame him. You can understand, I guess. You can understand he is at a weird crossroads, his character is, because, you know, on the one side, he has held out hope that he's going to get his wife and his stepson back, and now they have been brutally taken away, and yet he's confronted with the reality that he was never going to get them back anyways, and he was just, I mean, I think the point there is he admits to Rick that he held the grieving process away from his children. He deprived them of that, and that was wrong. And that's an interesting moment. Well, Rick and him have this really long conversation. It's mainly Rick talking and Rick trying to speak some sense into him, wake him up out of this, I mean, you get the sense that Herschel's just going to quit. He's just going to quit. And Rick's like, you can't. Even if neither of us have hope anymore, if hope is non-existent, just for their sake, the women back home, our friends, everyone else in the group, you can't do that. You can't. Others depend on you. And so there's this interesting conversation of where Rick is as a character and where Herschel is, and then eventually a lot of it just sort of settles in, and just as Herschel's about to, takes the last sip and turns the cup over, the glass over, he's done. He's had his moment. Herschel has. God bless his soul, boy. And they get up to walk out. Well, lo and behold, the door opens. These two guys walk in, Tony and Dave, and they begin to have a little chat. And we come to find out that these two apparently are from Philly and have been just surviving on the road. And they have taken interest in our group there and where they may be holding up. And we get the impression they do not have good intentions at all. And Rick picks up on this very quickly, and it's a tense, it's a calm conversation at first, but very shortly along the way, Rick begins to realize that these guys do not have. I think some of it comes from Tony, who, once it's established that there is a farm, that they have a place. The only thing, he cares about is, I can't remember the phrasing he used, but, if they got some girls up there, and I think right there is the only red flag you need. This is not a good group of guys. And so Rick understands and realizes, and the tension just slowly gets ratcheted up to where I think it's Dave goes up behind the bar. He's going to make himself a drink. Tony is and they're sort of like that with Rick in the middle. It's like you can see they're sort of positioning themselves probably to take this group out, or at least wound them enough to where they can be led back to wherever they're at, probably to steal their supplies or take over the place themselves. And it's like that Han and Greedo moment, so I think it's Dave behind the bar, and he says to Rick, well, where shall we go? You told us we got to go look for another place. Where? And Rick's like, well, they say Nebraska. Now, Nebraska was brought up earlier because of its low population and huge amount of guns. And so Rick brings it back up and says, well, I hear Nebraska looks good. And so at that point, there seems to be a draw, and it's a no-win situation for Dave and Tony. And so I think it's Tony who begins to reach for the gun first, but man, instinctively as a cop, Rick takes them both down just like that. And boy, the look on Herschel's face, if what happened up at the barn wasn't enough not to watch Rick take these two living guys down just like that. And you can see it's a pivot point for a lot of characters here, perhaps Daryl, Rick as well. This is the first time Rick is taken this kind of a step, and you hope he doesn't begin to become that much more cold or calculated in his decision making. But there's a change in his character. There is a real change in his character that's beginning, and for Herschel and for Daryl and of course Shane, and the tension between Shane and Rick, and it's all headed towards another eruption at some point. You just get this sense, right? So there's one other small aspect to the story now with Beth in a catatonic shock of sorts. Laurie finds Daryl and tries to beg him, plead with him to go fetch Rick because they really need him back up there quick. Daryl's had enough. He is at a weird place right now, and so Daryl just sort of tells her to take a hike. So Laurie takes it upon herself to get the car and go. Well, not so far away. She's looking out the map and doesn't realize the walker's coming out. It's too late. She hits the walker, and the car, as a result, spins off and to the side and flips over. And that's where you leave her for the moment. And so, you know, you got Laurie stranded in a car with a walker, presumably, who's just going to get up here in a minute. You've got the group coming back. You got Beth in a catatonic shock. You got the tension between Rick and Shane. You got Daryl's mistrust at an all-time high of Shane. In fact, he even tells Laurie that he just flat out believes he sacrificed Otis, you know, and perhaps they were pinned down and he had no other recourse and just decided to sacrifice Otis to, you know, get him out of that with the stuff that they needed for Carl. So, I mean, and I'm trying to think, I don't know if there's anything. You got, during the funeral, you do have Carol. She's not part of it, and she ends up going back out to that area where that Cherokee Rose was, that Daryl had, you know, sort of inspired her with some hope that they were going to find Sophia. And it just wasn't to be. Well, they'll find her, all right, but not the way that nobody wants. And then you got the tension between Maggie and Glenn as well, not knowing what's going to come out of the immediate moments following this aftermath, in terms of, do they stay at the farm, not stay at the farm? What does all this look like? And of course, you know, no greater tension, perhaps, if there's any tension that supersedes Dale's and Shane's, it's Shane and Herschel now for what has just gone down. The last official word from Herschel was, get off my property, get off. Rick holds out hope. Well, at least Shane. So we'll see where all this goes. We'll see where all this goes in the next episode or two. We're quickly, if we're not at the next episode, we're quickly coming to a critical pivot moment where the group is probably going to move on from this farm into the next major phase, which I think it's the prison, right? I think it's the prison. But how do we get there exactly? I can't remember. Interestingly enough, I read that Nebraska as a state was ground zero for any potential nuclear attack during the Cold War era, 50s, 60s. And so that's a reason why Nebraska is mentioned. Another interesting piece of trivia is the spin-off World, I think it's World Beyond, The Walking Dead World Beyond, maybe, is one of the main locales. I think that was in 2020. So, you know, I think multiple reasons for why Nebraska is mentioned. So, interesting, very, very interesting. So, I'm not even sure what the next episode is called, but this is it for this disc. So we get to move on into a fresh disc and continue on in season 2. So thank you for the support. Thank you for what for the views and everything else, and feel free to comment at any time. And yeah, we'll cut it there. As always, go Bills and go Dogs.
It might be useful to